The Trump administration is planning a $10 to $15 billion bailout for American farmers using your taxpayer money. So let's talk about it. Here's a little context on this. China is historically the single biggest purchaser of soybeans in America. However, they have all but vanished from our market this year. Now, soybeans are a huge cash generating crop for farms, particularly in the Midwest. And when China stops buying, that income fully disappears. A couple of quick facts on the trade war here is that soybean exports from the U.S. into China have collapsed this year. And while that has happened, Brazil and Argentina have been able to price us out of the market due to the trade war. And China has turned to them to import soybeans from those countries instead. Here is a farmer talking to CNN about what the trade war is doing to them right now. Let's take a look.
Well, it's a perfect storm of high cost and low commodity prices, and we already in a difficult farm economy, and then the trade war started, and that's taken things from bad to worse. And now our biggest export customer, China, has not purchased any soybeans from this year's crop, and that equates to about 25% of the whole American soybean crop this year. And we desperately need that market, and unfortunately, we're in a standoff right now.
Now, unfortunately, this is not the first time that this administration has done this to farm communities in our country. Back during the last Trump administration trade war in 2018 and 2019, China also retaliated by stopping their purchase of American soybeans. And it also really hurt farm communities in the country. In 2018 and 2019, there were record bankruptcies for farms across the US. And the administration also back then had to bail out farmers to the tune of around $20 billion. Now, the issue with it this time is China is not falling for this again. They have basically shifted their purchases to Brazil and Argentina and have started building the infrastructure to create long-lasting soybean purchasing relationships with those countries. And so this time around, it's going to be so much harder for those farmers to actually get those sales back. And then what's also hurting them on top of the 34% tariff that Trump has put on soybean exports to China, but because of other tariffs and other bad policies by this administration, the input costs from things like fuel and fertilizer and equipment have also gone up so much, making it so there basically is not a market for people to be able to purchase soybeans at the price the farmers need to break even or even make some sort of a profit. Now, the administration, of course, is saying everything's fine. We're going to take care of the farmers, and it's all going to be good this year. Here's what White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett had to say about it this morning. Let's take a look.
The tariff money is going to be useful for helping us find the funds that we need to help farmers. We've had numerous meetings over the last week or two about exactly what we're going to do to help the farmers, but we're taking big measures, and those big measures are going to be public really, really soon. And yes, so for sure, China has, especially for soybean farmers, has stopped buying U.S. soybeans. Right now, the silos are full, and there are soybeans sitting on the ground with tarps over them. That's unacceptable to the president. We're calling up all our soybean customers around the world as part of our trade negotiations, and we're also getting ready to have really strong policies to support our farmers.
We haven't heard. A quick side note that's a little unrelated. I don't know why every time Kevin Hassett goes onto these interviews, he's talking about these terrible things that are happening in the country, but he's doing it with like a smile on his face for some reason. Never makes sense to me. But that point aside, we have to remember here, and I think the administration has finally stopped trying to play this game that tariffs are coming from other countries. Tariffs are a tax on the American people. All of this tariff money that the administration is touting and saying, oh my gosh, look at all the money we're getting. That is our money that is going into their pocket. So when they claim that other countries through tariffs are the ones that are going to contribute to this American farmer bailout, that is not true. We are the ones paying for that. And it's frustrating because not only are we paying for higher costs through everything that is becoming more expensive as a result of tariffs, we're also bailing out the other struggling industries that have been hurt as a result of this trade war. It's this like double whammy of us having to, people who are already struggling out there having to double dip and pay for the government's reckless, policy decisions when it comes to this trade war. So, this at the end of the day is amounts to welfare for these farmers. And Fox News surprisingly had a similar take on it. Let's take a look at that.
Look, 8 years ago, they were a #1 customer. They took almost 40% of our soybeans 8 years ago, and now they take 0.
That's right. In 2018, with President Trump's first round of tariffs on China, at that moment, China was the largest export market for American soy. And they bought 60% of our soybean exports. And they are essentially, exports have collapsed this year, and there are no new orders logged in recent months. And quite frankly, unless something happens to reopen new markets for these farmers, you can't bail people out. That's how much you're going to give them that every year. I mean, you could do that. The tariff revenue is running about, on average in the last couple of months, about $30 billion a month. But do the farmers want welfare? Because that's what it is.
So this is like you're in a trade war, right? And this is the casualty of it now. And so China's using this as leverage because that's how you're going to put pressure on Trump.
Now, there are a couple things here. First of all, the last guy who was talking and basically said, oh, unfortunately, this is just, they're just kind of a casualty and collateral damage for this. That is how this administration operates with everything. It seems like the Americans who are most vulnerable and need help the most are the casualties of the administration's decisions. The big, beautiful bill. It's like, well, great. Tens of millions of people are going to get kicked off their insurance, but the rich don't seem to be a casualty for this. They got a huge permanent tax cut out of it. So that point is frustrating to hear. But what one of the Fox hosts said was, what are we going to do? Are we going to bail out these farmers every single year? Because while this current iteration of the bailout might be enough to keep the lights on this season, it doesn't fix the long-term problem and rebuild the market that this trade war has broken. Like, China is going to other partners at this point and is clearly investing in other relationships. And so what is going to bailing these farmers out every single year to the tune of tens of billions of dollars is not going to actually solve the problem and help them keep their livelihoods. What's actually going to work is ending the tariff crossfire and rebuilding stable market access and creating support programs that are actually predictable, not just waiting for bankruptcies to go up and farmers to struggle and get loud about it and then decide based on that how much money you're going to give them every year. That is going to be confusing to people, and it's going to infuriate people at the end of the day. I mean, of course, for this, the administration is touting, how great the president is to farmers, and that's what Caroline Leavitt had to say in her last press briefing. Let's take a look at what she had to say.
What about China, if I could? So China has not made one soybean purchase this year in the United States. I talked to a farmer yesterday who has about 1,000 acres in Iowa and says this is just killing her. Now, the president has been talking to President Xi. Could China not buying agriculture affect a possible meeting with the president? Would he not meet with Xi because China has refused to buy soybeans from the U.S.?
Look, I don't want to speak for the president and make a determination on that from this podium, but what I can tell you is that supporting America's farmers and doing what's best for them is at the top of the president's priority list, and it's at the top of the list for this administration right now. There have been several very high-level meetings on this very topic. We want to help our farmers, and we're exploring the best ways to do that, and I would anticipate there will be more to come on that very soon.
You can send a message to the Chinese president.
Look, I just shared that message. The president wants what's best for America's farmers.
If American farmers are at the top of the president's priority list, he's had a pretty interesting way of showing it the past several months. And look, I know for a lot of people, they will hear about this happening and they will look at these farmers struggling and they will say, well, most of those people voted for Donald Trump, I'm guessing, and therefore they got what they voted for. And while I understand where that frustration and where that feeling comes from, I would hesitate against it. I think these farmers, like so many Americans in the last administration or the last election, were lied to. And at the end of the day, they're just sort of caught up in the crossfire of this bad policy making from the administration. And I'm hoping that this is an opportunity for Democrats to show the farmers that were they to be back in power, they are not going to take steps that are going to devastate their crops and devastate their livelihood. And so, while Trump is calls all of this American first or America first, it feels like this is farmers last while ordinary Americans pay for the privilege of bailing them out. And it's not a good look for the administration. That is it for me today. If you liked what you saw, throw a like on this video, follow the Demwins Media YouTube channel, follow me at buildingthebench.substack.com, and we will keep bringing you the news as you need to see it. Thanks for watching.